Every arborist eventually realizes that healthy trees don't stay healthy by accident. Urban trees face stress from compacted soil, drought, insects, pathogens, and human activity. And the way we respond to those challenges can either strengthen the long-term health of a landscape or create new problems we never intended. This chapter focuses on plant health care, often shortened to PHC. It's one of the most important frameworks modern arborists use to manage pests, diagnose problems, and protect trees over time. If you're preparing for the BCMA exam, understanding plant health care means more than memorizing pesticide names. It means learning how to think like a diagnostician and manage living systems. In this podcast, we're going to explore how arborists diagnose tree problems and manage pests using integrated strategies. We'll discuss the difference between abiotic disorder and biotic disorder, how to identify the causal agent behind tree decline, and how pests, pathogens, and environmental stress interact. We'll also explore integrated pest management, or IPM, and how arborists use monitoring, action thresholds, and selective treatments to make better decisions. Finally, we'll cover different types of pest control, including cultural control, biological control, and chemical control, along with the many tools arborists use such as fungicides, insecticides, miticides, horticultural oils, and systemic pesticides. This chapter ties together tree biology, diagnostics, and practical management decisions in the field. Guided concept walkthrough. Let's start with the big picture. Plant health care, or PHC, is a proactive management approach that focuses on maintaining plant vitality while minimizing pest damage and unnecessary chemical use. Instead of reacting to problems after trees decline, PHC emphasizes pest prevention, monitoring, and strategic interventions. This is where integrated pest management, or IPM, becomes essential. Integrated pest management is a decision-making framework that combines biological, cultural, and chemical tools to manage pests in an environmentally responsible way. The goal is not always eradication. In many cases, we aim for suppression, keeping pest populations below damaging levels, while allowing natural ecological processes to function. To understand how this works, we need to start with the concept of a pest. A pest is any organism that interferes with the health, aesthetics, or function of a plant. But the pest itself isn't always the only issue. Arborists also have to determine whether tree decline is caused by a biotic disorder or an abiotic disorder. A biotic disorder is caused by living organisms such as insects, pathogens, mites, or parasitic plants. A pathogen might be a fungus, bacterium, virus, or other organism capable of causing disease. Some pathogens are spread by a vector, which is an organism that carries and transmits a pathogen between plants. In contrast, an abiotic disorder results from environmental stress such as drought, soil compaction, nutrient imbalance, chemical injury, or mechanical damage. Abiotic disorders can be tricky because they often mimic symptoms of pest damage. In many cases, abiotic stress weakens trees first, and that leads to a secondary disorder caused by opportunistic organisms. For example, drought stress may weaken a tree and allow a bark beetle infestation to occur later. In this case, the beetle becomes the secondary pest. Understanding cause and effect is critical here. The original stress may be abiotic, but the visible damage might be biotic. Exam insight moment. On the BCMA exam, you may be asked to identify the causal agent behind tree decline. That means determining the underlying factor responsible for the problem. Arborists must separate primary causes from secondary disorders. Another important concept in PHC is the idea of a key plant and a key pest. A key plant is a species that requires regular monitoring because of its importance in the landscape. A key pest is an organism known to cause recurring damage to that plant. For example, if you manage a landscape full of crepe myrtles, crepe myrtle bark scale becomes a key pest. Once arborists identify key pests, the next step is monitoring. Monitoring involves regular inspection of plants to track pest activity and health indicators. In many programs, arborists use indicator plants to detect early pest activity. These are plants known to show symptoms before other species. Monitoring also helps identify asymptomatic conditions. A tree may appear healthy or asymptomatic, while a pest population is developing unnoticed. Understanding life cycles becomes very important here. Every pest moves through different life stages within its life cycle. Many treatments only work during specific life stages. For example, insecticidal soaps or horticultural oils are often most effective against soft-bodied insects during early developmental stages. Timing is everything. That's where phenology comes in. Phenology is the study of recurring biological events and how they relate to climate and seasonal changes. Arborists often use a phenology calendar to track plant development stages and pest emergence. Instead of relying only on dates, we track phenological stages like bud break, flowering, or leaf expansion. These biological signals often align closely with pest development. For instance, degree day models are commonly used to predict insect development. Degree day calculations measure accumulated heat units that influence insect growth and emergence. Using degree days allows arborists to predict when pests will reach vulnerable stages. Diagnostic thinking for arborists. Now let's talk about decision-making. In integrated pest management, arborists rarely treat pests the moment they appear. Instead, we consider thresholds. An action threshold is the pest population level at which management action should be taken. Closely related is the economic threshold, which refers to the point where pest damage becomes economically unacceptable. These thresholds help avoid unnecessary pesticide applications. Before treatment, arborists follow the appropriate response process, often abbreviated ARP. This process involves confirming the pest, evaluating environmental conditions, considering non-chemical solutions, and selecting the most appropriate management strategy. Field-based arborist examples. Imagine you're inspecting a row of honey locust trees along a commercial street. You begin monitoring and discover a small population of spider mites. Spider mites are a pest, but they are often controlled naturally by predators and other beneficial organisms. Beneficial organisms include predators, parasites, and parasitoids. A predator consumes multiple prey during its lifetime. A parasite lives on or within a host and benefits at the host's expense. A parasitoid eventually kills its host as part of its life cycle. Together, these organisms function as natural enemies that regulate pest populations. If you immediately apply a broad-spectrum pesticide, you may kill both the pest and its natural enemies. This can lead to pest resurgence, where pest populations rebound quickly because their natural enemies are gone. Even worse, it can cause a secondary pest outbreak if another species takes advantage of the disrupted ecosystem. This is why selective management strategies are often preferred. Biological control focuses on enhancing natural enemies to suppress pest populations. Sometimes this involves augmentation, which means releasing additional beneficial organisms into an area. Other times it involves introduction, where beneficial species are intentionally introduced to control an invasive pest. Cultural control is another major strategy. Cultural control involves modifying environmental conditions to reduce pest problems. Examples include improving soil health, correcting irrigation issues, increasing tree vigor, or reducing monoculture plantings. Monoculture landscapes often create ideal conditions for pest outbreaks because pests can easily move from tree to tree. Sanitation is also a key cultural practice. Sanitation involves removing infected plant material, fallen debris, or infested wood to reduce pest populations. Chemical control. Sometimes chemical control becomes necessary. Chemical control uses pesticides to suppress pest populations when other strategies are insufficient. A pesticide is any substance used to prevent, destroy, repel, or control a pest. Different pesticides target different organisms. Insecticides control insects. Miticides control mites. Fungicides control fungal pathogens. Herbicide products are used to control unwanted plants. Some herbicides are selective herbicides, meaning they target specific plant groups while leaving others unaffected. Many modern PHC programs emphasize biorational pesticide products. A biorational pesticide typically has lower toxicity to humans and non-target organisms while effectively controlling the target organism. Examples include microbial extracts, botanicals, botanical pesticide products derived from plants, and materials like insecticidal soaps and horticultural oils, sometimes called dormant oils. Another factor arborists must consider is how pesticides work. Contact pesticides remain on plant surfaces and must directly contact the pest to be effective. Systemic pesticide products move within the plant's vascular system and can protect tissues from internal feeding pests. Systemic pesticides may be delivered through microinjection, soil drench application, or foliar application. Microinjection places materials directly into the vascular system of the tree. Soil drench application allows roots to absorb materials from the soil. Foliar application places pesticides directly onto leaves or bark surfaces. Each method has advantages and limitations depending on the pest and tree condition. Arborists must also watch for phytotoxic effects. A phytotoxic reaction occurs when a pesticide damages plant tissues. Improper timing, incorrect concentration, or sensitive plant species can all cause phytotoxic injury. Exam insight moment. Certification exams often test the difference between contact pesticides and systemic pesticide materials. They may also ask about the advantages of selective management strategies versus broad-spectrum pesticide use. Long-term PHC programs also consider resistance. Over time, pest populations can develop resistance to pesticides. Pest resistance or pesticide resistance occurs when repeated pesticide exposure allows tolerant individuals to survive and reproduce. This evolutionary process reduces the effectiveness of treatments. Plant breeders also use resistance in a positive sense. Resistant varieties of trees are selected or developed to tolerate specific pests or diseases. This approach reduces the need for chemical interventions. Another specialized tool in PHC programs is the use of tree growth regulator products, sometimes abbreviated TGR. A tree growth regulator modifies plant growth patterns. Some TGR products reduce shoot elongation while encouraging root growth or improving stress tolerance. These tools can be useful in managing trees growing in difficult urban environments. Let's bring all these ideas together. Plant healthcare is a proactive approach to tree management that emphasizes prevention, monitoring, and strategic intervention. Arborists diagnose problems by identifying the causal agent and determining whether the issue is a biotic disorder or an abiotic disorder. Monitoring programs track pest populations, life cycles, and phenological stages using tools like Phenology calendars and degree day models. Integrated pest management uses action thresholds and economic thresholds to guide decisions. Management strategies may include cultural control, biological control, and chemical control. Natural enemies such as predators, parasites, and parasitoids play a critical role in regulating pest populations. Chemical tools include fungicides, insecticides, miticides, herbicides, insecticidal soaps, horticultural oils, botanicals, microbial extracts, and other biorational pesticide products. Arborists must also consider issues like phytotoxic reactions, pest resistance, pest resurgence, and impacts on non-target organisms. The goal is not simply to eliminate pests, but to maintain balanced ecosystems that support long-term tree health. Summary: plant healthcare represents one of the most important shifts in modern arboriculture. Instead of reacting to tree decline, arborists use observation, ecology, and strategic management to prevent problems before they become severe. For BCMA candidates, mastering these concepts is essential because they connect tree biology, pest management, and real-world decision-making. In the next chapter, we'll shift into one of the most important practical tools arborists use to influence tree structure and health: pruning. Because in the end, successful arboriculture is not just about treating problems. It's about understanding the entire living system surrounding the tree.
Thanks for listening to the Arborist-podcast. Let's keep building your arborist knowledge one domain at a time. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe.